Have you ever thought about dying for 12 minutes and returning with a secret that could transform everything we know about the world? In today's video, you're going to discover the incredible story of a scientist who went through a near-death experience in Antarctica and found something terrifying beneath the ice. Before we start, let us know in the comments which city you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more astonishing stories like this one. Get ready, because what you're about to hear might change your perception of reality. I'm Darian Crow, and I never imagined that my life, grounded in the precision of numbers and the rigidity of science, would become the scene of such a surreal event. Ever since I was a child, I was fascinated by what could be measured, tested, and proven. My skepticism was my shield, and logic my compass. It was this conviction that led me to join a scientific expedition to Antarctica, one of the most inhospitable and enigmatic places on Earth. I clearly remember the day I embarked towards the white expanse. Upon arriving at the research station, amidst fierce winds and unimaginable temperatures, the atmosphere was one of silent determination. The environment was almost surreal. The sky, a crystalline blue, contrasted with the pristine snow and the cold gleam of the ice. During preparations, my colleagues were excited and eager to unravel the mysteries that the icy continent might reveal. It was within this context that I found myself engaged in a mission to investigate anomalous electromagnetic signals, which some believe to be the echo of something far beyond the natural realm. Darian, have you seen the intensity of these signals? It's as if the ice is trying to tell us a secret, commented Dr. Alan Mercer, as he examined the measuring devices with a mix of fascination and caution. I, for my part, maintained my usual stance, analyzing each piece of data with scientific rigor. I couldn't allow a sense of mystery to divert my focus from what was measurable. The research station was a small, isolated refuge, where each team member worked tirelessly under adverse conditions. The nights were long, with the aurora borealis painting the sky in colors that seemed to belong to a dream world. Amidst this scenario, I, Darian Crow, tried to find order in chaos, documenting every phenomenon and variation in the equipment with the precision of an accountant. During the first few days, everything went as predictably as I valued. However, a growing tension set in as the electromagnetic signals intensified, stirring curiosity and, at times, slight discomfort among some team members. On one of those cold nights, while reviewing data in the makeshift lab, I overheard a colleague jokingly say, "Maybe the ice is talking to us," perhaps even whispering secrets of bygone eras. The laughter that followed was light, but it revealed that even among the most skeptical, there was a lingering unease in the face of the inexplicable. I, however, remained firm in my conviction. Numbers don't lie. Every anomaly, every peak in the graphs, had an explanation that would soon be unveiled. Antarctica, with its silent vastness and nearly untouched landscape, was the perfect setting for scientific investigation. And although my logical instincts told me everything would have a rational explanation, something deep down unsettled me, a slight sensation that we were on the verge of discovering something that would transcend mere science. As the icy winds howled outside and the sun set behind the ice mountains, I wrote down my notes, aware that every detail, no matter how small, could hold the key to understanding what truly lay beneath that white mantle. My journey, which had begun with the firmness of data and the security of calculations, was about to turn into a narrative that would challenge not just logic, but the very essence of existence. That frigid morning, the day promised to be like any other on the expedition. The team and I had planned to drill a new data well, eager to gather more information from the signals that had suddenly intensified. The air was thin, and the incredibly low temperatures made every movement a battle against the relentless cold. "Darian, adjust the depth sensor. Something here isn't aligning with the previous data," instructed Dr. Alan Mercer, examining the monitors with a concentration only true scientists can demonstrate. I responded with my usual calm and assured voice. "Right, Alan, I'll recalibrate the equipment." While we were handling the devices, I began to notice small discrepancies, readings that deviated from the norm, suggesting that what we were about to find did not belong to this world. The team's usually reliable radios started to transmit almost imperceptible noises, like whispers carried by the wind. "Did you hear that? It sounds almost like voices," commented a technician with a tone of doubt permeating the environment. Unexpectedly, a sudden vibration shook the drilling field. The ground trembled beneath our feet, The GPS screen flickered frantically, losing signal and entering a sort of digital panic. The sound of the equipment blended with the deafening noise of the ice breaking. In an instant, the fissure opened beneath our feet, as if the earth itself wanted to reveal an ancient secret. "Watch out! Get out of the perimeter!" shouted Alan, but the collapse had already begun. The ground gave way uncontrollably, and I felt a whirlwind of sensations as I fell. Darkness engulfed everything, but strangely, I felt no pain. It was as if I had suddenly detached from my body, watching helplessly my own fall into the unknown. I was floating. There I was, observing the scene as if watching a movie. My body, lifeless, lay trapped by the crack in the ice. Initially, terror mixed with a feeling of profound calm, a peace I had never experienced. Time seemed to stretch, and each second extended into a silent eternity. "Darian, can you hear me?" A distant and nearly ethereal voice sounded, trying to anchor me somehow. But at the same time, the environment was filled with sounds that did not belong to that place. A choir of whispers and vibrations that defied rational explanation. It was in this state, between the end and the beginning, that I perceived something inexplicable. Small luminous beings began to appear, hovering around the fissure, observing me with looks that conveyed compassion and mystery. I, who had always trusted only in science, found myself before the inexplicable. The sensation of being out of my body intensified, and in an instant I realized that an invisible force was pulling me towards a tunnel of bright light. It was as if every atom of my being was being guided to an unknown destination. Amid this whirl of emotions and disconnected images, all I knew was that that moment would mark an irreversible transition between life and death. The distant voice, now more intense, echoed through the void. "Darian." As the light from the tunnel enveloped me, I was transported to a dimension that defied any earthly logic. In that ethereal space, the feeling of floating was accompanied by an absolute calm, almost sublime. Then suddenly, a presence made itself known. In the middle of this vortex of light, I heard a deep and serene voice, resonating as if from the very core of the universe. "Darian." The voice echoed, so familiar yet so transcendent, that it seemed to break through all barriers of time and space. Focusing my attention, I saw the silhouette of a radiant figure, surrounded by a golden light exuding peace and authority. In my eyes, there was no doubt. It was Jesus. "Why am I here? What's happening?" I managed to ask, though my words felt small before such presence. The figure responded with a compassionate smile and a gaze that conveyed all the love and wisdom of the universe. "Darian, you were chosen to see beyond the veil of reality. This place, this experience is no mere chance. It's a call to awaken the truth many refuse to see." As I tried to process the magnitude of that encounter, Jesus began to reveal a secret that could never be understood by pure science. "Antarctica," he said, "is not just an ice desert. The walls you observed, the fissures and signals are divine seals. They were erected to contain an ancient evil, a primordial energy that, if released, would bring imbalance and destruction to the world." With every word, the clarity of the revelation intensified. I felt overwhelmed by a sense of urgency, that time was running out for this truth to be recognized. But, Jesus, how can I trust this? I've always believed in what could be measured, tested, and now suddenly, I find myself before something so divine, I confessed, with a mix of disbelief and reverent awe. Jesus approached, and in his eyes, I saw the certainty that his message was true. "Science has its limitations, Darian. What you witness today goes beyond matter and numbers. It's evidence of a higher order, a plan that surpasses human understanding. The seals that keep the evil contained were created to protect humanity. However, the world, blinded by progress and arrogance, is about to break them. They have no idea what they are about to unleash." As his words penetrated every part of my being, the dimension around us seemed to vibrate with an ancient energy. Every particle of light seemed to carry the history of forgotten eras, of battles between good and evil. "You, Darian, were chosen to be a warning. Your experience is the first breath of truth that needs to be shared. Even as the world's skepticism tries to silence your voice, remember, the light always finds a way to break through the darkness." In this space of revelation, time seemed to have neither beginning nor end. The emotions mixed, fear, hope, and a responsibility resting upon me with the weight of a divine mission. As I absorbed each word, I felt as though my existence, all grounded in logic and reason, was being rewritten by spiritual truth itself. And at the end of this encounter, with Jesus still hovering in an aura of serenity, I knew I would never be the same. Remember, Darian, that even in a world of skeptics, the truth can reveal itself in unexpected ways. Trust in the light, and be ready to warn those who still live in darkness. With those words, the divine presence began to dissipate, leaving me with a mix of consolation and urgency. The certainty that the future depended on our ability to see the invisible. As the radiant figure vanished, I felt my being enveloped by a new light that seemed to transport my consciousness beyond time and space. Suddenly, I found myself in a setting defying all logic. I was floating in a vastness of shimmering colors, where the past, present, and future intertwined in a tapestry of intense images and sensations. Darian, observe. A soft, mysterious voice echoed again, this time seeming to emanate from the very fabric of reality. There, before my eyes, visions appeared that transcended any scientific understanding. I could see with unsettling clarity the Earth from a perspective beyond human perception. Enormous ice fields transformed before me, revealing the hidden structure of Antarctica. Beneath the seemingly inert surface, I saw ancient cities emerge as outlines of light, filled with towers and passages recounting stories of a lost civilization. It was as if the ice, in its apparent rigidity, concealed a millennial secret, a forgotten heritage from a time when the divine and the earthly merged. See, Darian, the voice whispered, these structures are not mere ruins. They are witnesses to an era when humanity was guided by forces now dormant. The ice walls you study are not natural. They are divine seals, created to contain what was left behind, to protect the world from a primordial chaotic energy. The vision intensified. The glow of the submerged buildings in the ice mixed with deep shadows, and I could sense a tension emanating from that place. It was as if the planet itself guarded a dangerous secret, a destructive potential that, if unleashed, would bring imbalance to all humankind. Amid this visual turmoil, an urgent question arose. How could something so magnificent and yet so terrifying exist in silence beneath our feet? While reflecting on this, I noticed figures moving slowly around the ruins, shadows echoing the remnants of a long-extinct civilization. Their movements were harmonious, and paradoxically carried an air of urgency, as if they wanted to warn me of what was to come. In one of those moments, one figure stood out, an entity of light with defined features, communicating both comfort and warning through gentle gestures. These entities guard the truth of the past and the keys to the future, I heard. The voice, now seeming a blend of multiple tones, reinforced the message. The seals were created not only to preserve history but to contain a force that could subvert the universe's balance. The vision was a warning. Governments, elites, and society, blinded by progress, were on the verge of breaking these seals, unaware of what they would awaken. While the scene unfolded, I was overcome by a sense of urgency and sadness. Every detail, from the breathtaking beauty of the submerged structures to the imminent threat of releasing an ancient evil, spoke of a tragic destiny for humanity. The vision showed me that true evolution lay not in technology or material advancement, but in maintaining a living connection with the divine. Darian, your mission is clear, the voice repeated, now with a tone blending compassion and firmness. You need to alert the world about what is hidden beneath the ice before it is too late. The final message resonated with my soul, and for a few moments, I felt as if the entire universe conspired for me to carry this truth forward. With the echo of the prophetic vision etched in my mind, the vastness of light and shadow began to fade, and the feeling that something immense was about to awaken lingered. As the vision ended, the atmosphere changed dramatically. I felt a deep cold coursing through my being as the dimension around me transformed into something dark and threatening. The luminous, ethereal scenarios gave way to images of a humanity seduced by empty promises. It was as if the very essence of time had concentrated into a grim war. Something was approaching, and it was not good. As the vision became clearer, a grave voice, full of sorrow and urgency, echoed in the silent space. Darian, the enemy will not come with brute force, but with the most subtle deception you have ever witnessed. The voice seemed to carry the weight of countless eras and at the same time, a tone of lament for what humanity was about to face. I felt an unrest transforming into despair, for the message spoke of an evil disguising itself as progress and evolution. Amid this revelation, I visualized a disturbing scene. Images of crowds hypnotized by screens and devices, promising to cure all ills. Charismatic leaders emerged, preaching a new era of technological advancement while, in the background, an invisible force severed people's spiritual connection. "They will sell an upgrade for humanity," I heard the voice announce. A change that, while bringing illusory benefits, would strip individuals of their souls, leaving them disconnected from the divine presence. In a kind of internal dialogue, my mind vehemently revisited the words. How can something that promises salvation actually be the door to our spiritual ruin? As I pondered this, the vision intensified and showed, in a sequence of disturbing images, how churches would divide and hearts would grow cold in the face of technological temptations. The atmosphere was heavy with a sense of treachery, as if the very essence of what it means to be human was being manipulated by invisible, malevolent hands. During one of these moments, the figure representing deception took form. It was an entity oscillating between light and shadow, seductive and ruthless. Its gaze, both captivating and desolate, conveyed the promise of a new world where pains would be alleviated by miraculous advancements. "Accept the upgrade," whispered the entity, "and feel the power of evolution. Free yourself from the shackles of the past and embrace the future." However, as the words echoed, an invisible mark etched itself into my senses. A mark symbolizing the final rupture between the divine and the human. In a nearly palpable confrontation, I felt the entity trying to penetrate my soul, imposing the idea of a reprogrammed humanity, devoid of connection to the true spiritual essence. "Do not be deceived, Darian," echoed the voice again, now with firmness and authority. It was as if the very light tried to save what was left of me. I could see in detail the duality of the deception. A seductive promise wrapped in lies and manipulation, ready to convert man's faith into pure technological dependency. As the vision gradually faded, I felt the mark of deception pulsing in my mind, a constant reminder of the imminent danger. The mark was as much a symbol as a warning, a signal that if humanity did not guard itself against this treacherous upgrade, it would forever lose the ability to sense the presence of God. I remained paralyzed, resisting the temptation to forget what I had witnessed. The internal struggle was intense. The fear of a future without faith confronted the hope of a spiritual rescue. It was in this conflict that the message became clear. The final deception was a subtle trap, ready to ensnare unalert souls. The darkness and intensity of the vision slowly faded, giving way to a profound emptiness and silence. Suddenly, as if an invisible force had decided to pull me out of that limbo between life and death, I felt a constant and comforting pressure lifting me upwards. Amid this whirlwind of sensations, I realized something extraordinary was about to happen. In a moment that seemed simultaneous to the awakening from a long, deep sleep, I felt my body return. It was as if every cell, every fiber of my being, was being reactivated, reconnecting with the pulse of the physical world. In a mix of confusion and relief, I awoke in a hospital room, the white lights and the incessant sound of monitoring machines filling the environment. Opening my eyes, the first image I saw was Lisa Harrison, the rescue doctor, with a mixture of concern and relief etched on her face. "Darian, you're back! You really came back!" she exclaimed, her voice trembling with emotion. Her words, though simple, carried the intensity of a miraculous reunion. I attempted to sit up, still disoriented, while Dr. Alan Mercer approached with a perplexed expression, holding a monitor showing stable vital signs. "You were out for exactly 12 minutes, Darian." "No one expected you to return," Alan commented, his voice a blend of relief and amazement. Still struggling to comprehend what had happened, I could barely articulate words to explain my experience. But something inside me had changed irreversibly. In an almost imperceptible whisper, my voice rose, laden with a conviction that seemed to come from another dimension. "Jesus is real! The deception is coming!" The reaction was immediate. While Lisa furrowed her brow in concern and Alan tried to document every detail with his equipment, I felt an urgent need to communicate what I had witnessed. It wasn't just a near-death account, but a divine mission that stood before me. Amid the noise of doctors' conversations and the constant beep of monitors, I managed to explain, in broken and emotional words, that what I saw and felt transcended the boundaries of science. I saw ancient structures beneath the ice. I saw the hidden truth that was sealed. And I was called to warn the world, I said, my hands trembling, not just from residual pain but from the intensity of the revelations. The room fell silent, broken only by the sound of the equipment. Alan exchanged a look with Lisa, both displaying skepticism and concern. "Darian, you need to rest. This could all be the result of a neurological crisis," suggested Alan while adjusting the medication levels. But deep down, I knew I couldn't just let this get lost in the oblivion of a hospital delirium. The internal call was clear. I had to warn those willing to listen, even if the truth sounded absurd to skeptical ears. As the night approached and the hospital calmed, in a corner, I wrote a short message on my digital recorder. "Do not be deceived. The revelation is imminent. Stay firm in faith. Truth is our only salvation." It was the beginning of a journey that would lead me to face unimaginable challenges, to find allies willing to listen, and to fight against a deception threatening the very essence of humanity. After the first days of recovery, my experience did not stop haunting me. Although I was back to life and trying to resume my routine in Chicago, a sense of urgency and unrest followed me wherever I went. The city, with its bustling streets and towering skyscrapers, almost ironically contrasted with the icy isolation I had witnessed in Antarctica. But while cars sped by and people carried on with their routines, unaware of the shadow looming over humanity, I felt that something much greater was at stake. One afternoon, while having coffee in a small restaurant near the hospital, I was approached by Michael Roberts, a former government scientist with the look of someone who had seen too much. He sat at my table discreetly, as if fearing that our conversation might be intercepted. "Darian, I know it seems unbelievable, but the data you brought, there's something wrong with the official narrative," he confided, lowering his voice. His eyes scanned the surroundings with a blend of distrust and urgency, as if every shadow could hide imminent danger. "What are you talking about, Michael?" I asked, feeling my heart race at the possibility that my account had finally found someone willing to listen. For months, I've been monitoring signals suggesting a systemic manipulation of information about Antarctica. The government, major corporations, and some elites, yes, even scientific sectors, are aligning efforts to conceal the truth. What you witnessed, what I could confirm in leaked documents, points to a forged revelation meant to distract the population, while simultaneously preparing the stage for an upgrade that will disconnect people from their spiritual essence. Michael explained with the conviction of someone who had traveled this path before. As the conversation unfolded, he showed me some confidential files saved on his laptop, evidence indicating that the electromagnetic signals were not a natural phenomenon, but part of a covered-up experiment. Lisa Harrison, who had visited the hospital to monitor my recovery, approached the table. Always attentive and empathetic, she listened to every word with widened eyes, recalling the moments of confusion and shock when she saw me awaken. "If this is true, Darian, we are facing a conspiracy that transcends any post-traumatic delusion," she commented with a mix of fear and determination. As the conversation intensified, I received an unexpected call. On the other end, a decisive and familiar voice introduced herself. "Sarah Walker, the investigative journalist. I'm on my way. You can't hide the truth for much longer." A few minutes later, Sarah joined the conversation, bringing an aura of determination and courage. She reported having received anonymous sources alerting her to secret operations in Antarctica and high-level meetings involving influential figures and governmental conspiracies. Together, the three of us, Michael, Sarah, and I, began to form a plan to disclose this hidden truth. "Darian, we need to combine our knowledge, your testimony, the data Michael gathered, and Sarah's ability to expose the truth to the media. If we manage to create a consistent narrative, we could alert the world before this upgrade gets implemented," Sarah said firmly, glancing at us with eyes gleaming with determination. The feeling that time was against us was palpable. Every second felt like the gears of a sinister machine were silently turning, preparing the stage for a global deception. The conspiracy, a sinister jigsaw puzzle, began to reveal itself. Data manipulation, disinformation, and the articulation of obscure interests fit into a scheme threatening human essence. As we left the cafe, the sound of hurried footsteps and the city's murmurs served as a backdrop to the sensation that something grand was about to happen. The truth was out there, awaiting revelation. And we were determined to dismantle the webs of conspiracy, no matter the cost. That night, as twilight gave way to darkness dotted with stars, I met with my allies in a small apartment in downtown Chicago. The environment was modest, but tension and determination filled the space like an inextinguishable flame. There, under the soft light of a desk lamp, we began to devise a plan to spread the message we had uncovered. Sarah, with her notebook and digital recorder, opened the discussion. "We have the truth and the data Michael compiled. We need a secure and impactful means of spreading it. But we can't just go out there exposing our names. The risk of being silenced is enormous." Michael nodded while typing furiously on his laptop. "We need to prepare a manifesto, something that can be transmitted clandestinely until we reach a communication medium that ensures the veracity of what we have. The mainstream media have already been tainted by ulterior interests. The upgrade approaching is not just technological but symbolic. A change that will annihilate our spiritual connection," he continued. I, Darian, felt an urgency surpassing fear. I recalled each second of that inexplicable Antarctic experience. The encounter with Jesus, the prophetic vision, and the subtle deception threatening to engulf the world. With emotion-laden voice, I declared, "I feel this call as something I cannot ignore." The message received in that tunnel of light was not solely for me but destined for all. If we do not act now, humanity may lose the ability to feel the divine's presence, to perceive the sacred amid modern chaos. Lisa, who had arrived discreetly to ensure safety, entered the conversation with the calm of someone who had faced crises before. "Darian, I saw something unforgettable in your eyes. Even at the edge of death, your faith remained unshaken. If this message is true, we need to alert everyone, but without causing uncontrolled panic. It will be a seed planted so that the awakening occurs gradually." The hours dragged on. As we debated strategies, we planned to create a final message, recorded both in audio and video, to be clandestinely distributed through independent networks, avoiding the major media conglomerates. Sarah suggested, "We can use social media, but in a fragmented manner, sending parts of the message across different platforms. This way, even if one part gets censored, the whole will come together. Above all, we need people to feel this urgency and question what is imposed upon them." While we discussed, the room's tension gave way to growing hope. Each of us knew the path would be arduous, filled with obstacles and risks. But the truth had become a burden we could no longer bear in silence. I closed my eyes for a moment, remembering the voice that called me in the darkness, the gentle yet firm touch that propelled me back to life. And I felt assured that the call was greater than any fear. "May our message reach the hearts of those who still possess the courage to question and seek the light," I said firmly, looking at each determined face around me. We weren't just fighting against a conspiracy. We were fighting to rescue humanity's essence, the sacred bond that truly makes us alive. The environment filled with a heavy silence, laden with meaning and purpose. We knew it wouldn't be an easy battle. The forces manipulating the truth were formidable. Yet, united by the ultimate call, each of us felt certain the message had to be delivered. Thus, with hearts ablaze with faith and determination, we sealed our pact of resistance against the deception threatening to destroy our soul. After the tense and decisive meeting with my allies, the following days were marked by a silent battle waging within me. Each morning, waking up to the reality of Chicago, the image of the light tunnel and the words echoing in my mind became both a burden and a source of strength. Amid this turmoil, the weight of responsibility, doubt, and hope intertwined in an internal struggle driving me to seek answers and establish myself. In the dimness of my apartment, sitting by the window, I watched the city come alive as the first rays of sun pierced the curtain, finding myself torn between my lifelong skepticism and the irrefutable conviction of what I experienced in Antarctica. In one of these introspective moments, my mind played back the whispers of the voice I heard during the encounter with Jesus. "Darian, you were chosen for something greater. Do not allow fear and doubt to keep you from following your destiny." These words echoed like a distant yet persistent call, prompting me to question each decision. Impelled to find answers, I decided to meet with Dr. Alan Mercer at a cozy downtown cafe. Over sips of hot coffee, he revealed with a serious expression, "I know this experience shakes the convictions I've always held, but we cannot ignore what presents itself. Every piece of data I've collected since the incident suggests not only a change in our physical world, but in our very perception of reality. Alan, his eyes moist with concern and wonder, challenged me to see beyond the visible. It's as if we are living a second age, Darian. And this internal struggle you feel may be the preparation for the awakening humanity needs. His words, simple yet profound, started to soften the rigidity of my skepticism. On another occasion, during a solitary walk through Lincoln Park, I felt a comforting presence. Although no one was beside me, I heard an inner voice that reminded me of Jesus' words, urging me to believe that spiritual awakening is the true essence of existence. Do not be afraid of the unknown. Each internal battle strengthens you to face what is to come. These words, emerging almost like a prayer, enveloped me in a mantle of tranquility, even when anguish seemed ready to dominate my thoughts. Nights also posed their challenges. As I lay down, shadows danced across my room's walls, and silence was broken by doubts and memories of Antarctica. In one of these moments, Lisa Harrison called. Her soft and empathetic voice asked, "Darian, are you still struggling with this restlessness?" I answered excitedly, "I feel my soul is divided. There are days when doubt almost consumes me. But then I remember each word and image of that experience, and something in me rekindles. Remember," she said firmly, "the true awakening comes when we confront our fears. It is in this internal confrontation that you will find the strength needed to fulfill your role." Throughout these weeks, the duality between skepticism and faith transformed into a process of self-discovery. Each internal challenge served to prepare me for the journey just beginning. Conversations with friends, meetings with old colleagues, and even the solitary silence of dawns were part of this awakening, where I learned that truth does not hide merely in scientific evidence, but also in experiences that touch the soul. While struggling to find balance, one thing became increasingly clear. The journey to truth is both external and internal. And it was in this whirlwind of emotions and discoveries that I understood that to warn the world, I would first need to find my own peace and conviction. The transition from chaos to a new normal was not immediate. In the months that followed, the experience I had in Antarctica became an intrinsic part of who I was, shaping every decision and thought. In Chicago, amid the city's bustling routine and small moments of silence, the memory of that encounter with the light continued to pulse in my heart. In the mornings, walking through the historic streets of the Lincoln Park neighborhood, the urban scenery mingled with vivid memories of the visions. With each step I saw myself reflected in windows and mirrors, not just as the Darian I once was, but as the man who carried a secret challenging reality. The city, with its skyscrapers and busy avenues, felt like an unexpected counterpoint to Antarctica's icy vastness. Two worlds so distant yet united by the intricate web of events that changed my life. "Darian, you seem more serene, but at the same time, there's an intensity in your gaze I've never seen before," commented a colleague from an old research project as we met in a cozy downtown cafe. His words echoed the restlessness many noticed, even though I never publicly shared my experience. I merely smiled enigmatically and said, "Life has its ways of teaching us truths we cannot always explain." At home, the documents, recordings, and notes I gathered with my allies, Michael, Sarah, Lisa, and Alan, became silent relics of a time when the boundary between the physical and the spiritual dissolved. Each record carried a pulsating narrative, and even if I didn't display them, they served as reminders of the mission that still needed fulfilling. The recorded message, detailed with revelations, was more than a denunciation. It was a legacy I hoped would, in some way, awaken those unwilling to accept imposed truths. One evening, conversing with Sarah over the phone, her voice carried a determination mixing hope with concern. "Darian, your story, despite its challenges, has the power to change lives. People are beginning to question, to seek answers. We must continue, even if the road is lonely." Her words were like a balm, and a reminder that the struggle for truth was ongoing. However, the legacy I carried wasn't just of a dramatic near-death account. It symbolized the perpetual conflict between unchecked progress and the essence of humanity. Every conversation with friends, every chance encounter, made me reflect on how the world was changing. In small gestures and glances I saw the seed of awakening, the same light that touched me in the final moments of the experience. During moments of introspection, I questioned whether I could ever express the full depth of my experiences. Though I never sought fame or recognition, I felt an undeniable responsibility to warn, to plant this seed in every soul willing to listen. The legacy of my experience was a silent call, that humanity never forget the value of spiritual connection, the quest for truth transcending the tangible. As night fell over the city and Chicago's lights illuminated the skyline, I remained awake, contemplating the path taken and the uncertain future. The experience, with all its pain, revelations, and transformations, became the foundation of a legacy I would eternally cherish. The truth I witnessed could not be forgotten, for, in some way, it is the key to reclaiming humanity's lost essence.